The Champions League draw is complete, which means Tottenham Hotspur knows who they will be playing during the league phase part of the 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League. Welcome into a abbreviated edition of Top of the Perch. I'm your host, as always, Nick Burt. Draw took place today. Tottenham Hotspur finding out where they're going to go. So let's just get straight into it. We will start off with the home matches. From pot 1, Tottenham Hotspur have drawn from the Bundesliga Borussia Dortmund. Of course, we know the history there. With Dortmund, it's a team that just constantly kept seeming to show up in those mid to late 2010s. Obviously, Heung-min's son had some absolutely phenomenal games against them. Out of all the teams we've drawn, I believe Dortmund is the one that we have played the most. And again, I think we played them like 4 or 5 times, I want to say, in Champions League play. Probably even more, honestly. There's probably some times I'm forgetting. From pot 2, Tottenham Hotspur have drawn the Spanish side Villarreal. Of course, this is a club that won the Europa League back in 2021. A team that made the run to the semifinals of the Champions League, I believe, the year after that. Still a very decent club. Obviously, not great given, some of the signings they've made this summer and in relation to certain players that used to play for other clubs in London that are now under police investigation. That will get figured out later. This will be the first time Tottenham ever play Villarreal in a competition of any kind. So having the Yellow Submarine come to the lane, that is a obviously big moment for them. From pot 3, obviously was the same pot that Tottenham was in, was Slavia Praha, which of course is the club that Tottenham Hotspur bought Antonin Kinski from last summer. Again, this is another one where Tottenham Hotspur, I don't think they have played them in a very long time. Could be wrong on that one, but that is Kinski's hometown club. Obviously, bought him from there. That is probably going to be a massive moment for him. Obviously, if we were traveling there, probably would have been, a little bit bigger, but here we are. And then from pot 4, it is FC Copenhagen from Denmark. This will be the first time these two clubs are facing off in any competition. Copenhagen, I would say out of pot 4, they're middle of the table of what was in there. Again, overall, we'll get into the whole draw once we break down all of this, but this was a very, very good draw for Tottenham Hotspur. Let's take a look at the away matches. And standing out, first of all, from pot 1 is the Champions League title holders. And of course, the team we just played about 2 weeks ago for the first time ever, and that is Paris Saint-Germain. Tottenham will be going on a European away day to Paris to take on PSG. Obviously, we saw what happened a few weeks ago. Tottenham felt like they controlled that game up until, the 80th minute, and then everything kind of went downhill. And then they end up losing on penalties. Good thing, league phase, no penalty shootout, so that game would have ended in a draw. Going to be interesting to see how that game plays out because obviously the Super Cup and Champions League group stage game, I feel like are going to be varying amounts of actually caring from PSG, but still a great away day for Tottenham. And then the final three, all very familiar faces to Tottenham Hotspur. Starting off with Eintracht Frankfurt, a team that they played last time they were in the Champions League. They were in a group with Eintracht Frankfurt, which was, I believe that was the year after they won the Champions League, or the Europa League, I should say. Obviously, we just played them in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Another away day to Frankfurt is coming up for Tottenham Hotspur this autumn. And then in pot 3, Tottenham Hotspur are headed back up above the Arctic Circle. They are headed back to Bodo to take on Bodo Glimt. Again, another very familiar face, Tottenham Hotspur, just facing them this past May in the Europa League semifinals. Remember, you don't play teams like Frankfurt and Bodo in the Champions League, and that's why it was such an easy run for Tottenham Hotspur to get, to win the Europa League. And then finally, it is AS Monaco will be from pot 4. Tottenham will be taking an away day to the Principality in the south of France. A team I believe Tottenham played a few times, both in the Champions League and in the Europa League, back in those mid to late 2010 range. I believe Mbappe was still there when Tottenham played them. So a hopefully nice sunny day down to Monaco for Tottenham for the Champions League. Let's remind you how this is going to work. Obviously, you see the pots, and that was already done today. Each team draws 2 teams from each pot, which equals 8 match days for your league phase. League phase, it's going to be just like your traditional league. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 for a loss. No, extra time, no penalties. And of course, it will be in a 36-team table. If you finish 1 to 8 in the table, you automatically advance to the round of 16 and miss out on the playoff round. If you finish 9th through 24th, you will go into the playoff round. That will be done by draw. You would think it would go like 9 versus 24 and 10 versus 23 and, do that. But no, we will do a draw for that. So that means if you finish in 9th, you could potentially be drawing whoever finished in 10th, theoretically. The winner of those playoff matches will go on to the round of 16, where, of course, it will be done by draw again. Quarterfinals, it's self-explanatory from here. The quarterfinals will be your last draw, as that will then draw who will be going up against each other in the semifinals. And then the final, of course, that will be in Budapest on the end of May in a change to history. UEFA has shifted the kickoff time for this year's Champions League final and all following Champions League final to about 3 hours earlier. That means the game will be kicking off at noon Eastern time here in the United States. That would be around 5 o'clock in London, 6 p.m. in Budapest. So overall, for Tottenham, this was honestly the best of circumstances they could have got for the draw. Yes, PSG are there, and you have to go to Paris. But we just played them. We exposed their weaknesses a lot. And yes, Paris is going to be a very tough place to play, but I got some hope for that one. And then you look at your other draw from pot 1, your home game against Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund, I think, are the worst team in pot 1 at the moment. They've kind of been in flux the past few years. I know they made a Champions League final like 2 years ago, but I personally think they are the worst team in that pot 1 right now. Then you look at pot 2, of course. Villarreal, I think that's a very good home draw. It could have been, there were a lot of worse options out there. I think Villarreal is. It would be more dangerous if we were traveling down to Spain than it is to face them at home. And then, of course, Eintracht Frankfurt played them over 2 legs in April. Again, I'm not going to complain about that at all. Pot 3, Slavia Praha, home game. That would hopefully be a 3 points there, obviously. And then the away game against Bodo Glimt. I was told that it's very tough for big teams to go up to Norway and win because it's an artificial pitch. I've been told the weather's awful. Bodo plays a pressing style. Teams don't get out alive. Think of all the teams that have lost up there. Yeah, and then Tottenham go up there and win, 2-0 to advance to the Champions or Europa League final. Doesn't worry me. And then pot 4, I thought as long as we avoided Karat Altamay in that away day to Kazakhstan, with Altamay basically being on the border with China, as long as we avoided that, I thought we would be fine. I'm fine with it. I like the Monaco away. I obviously was over there. That would be one I'd be dying to go to, but Copenhagen also can't really complain about that. Might be a more difficult matchup with Copenhagen and Monaco, as there were probably better options in there for an easier draw. But alas, we are here. For Tottenham Hotspur, though, the stats do not lie. This is statistically the easiest draw of all the teams in the Champions League. If you take the club coefficients of all the teams, average them together, Tottenham has the highest technically club coefficient of their opponents, which I think was around 64, 65, which puts them 36th out of 36th in difficulty. So for Tottenham, that is absolutely massive for them. So, like I said, just a quick Champions League draw recap. No fixtures official yet, scheduling-wise. That will probably come out Friday morning or Saturday morning, one of the two. You will definitely see that on the club's social media and website pages. So thank you so much for watching this quick episode of Top the Perch. If you just stumble across this, click like, click subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. We'll be back on Saturday to recap the game against Bournemouth, so make sure you tune in for that. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again soon for another episode of Top of the Perch.